Good afternoon and welcome to All Together Here, a community symposium for discovery and remembrance. First of all, we would like to thank you for being here today and spending time with us to learn more about the important and interesting work that has been taking place over the last 3.5 years since the discovery of 36 people buried beneath the footprint of the Oakwood Cemetery Chapel during its restoration. I am your host, Laura Esparza, Division Manager of Museums and Cultural Programs for the Austin Parks and Recreation Department. And the Oakwood Cemetery Chapel is one of several museums and cultural centers that I manage with an incredible team of talented and dedicated staff. I will be with you for the next 2 days to navigate through our Zoom webinar of 39 speakers and almost as many videos and visuals. It's a bit complicated, and so we ask your forgiveness in advance for any Zoom blips that might occur. It's a lot. Our Zoom master, the man behind the curtain, is James Byers from the Dougherty Arts Center, and so you may hear me say James, but just know that James is operating all the controls, so just sit back and let James do the driving. You will have the opportunity to place your questions in the chat, which are in the black bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen under Q&A. And I will either answer them or I will provide them to the panelists to discuss. We'll get to as many as we can. This symposium is being recorded and the videos will be available on the Parks Department's YouTube page in about 2 weeks with the panels segmented, so you can select the one that you want to go back to. The reports that we are discussing today are now available on the Oakwood Cemetery Chapel website, as is the new online exhibit about this very subject. We conceived of a community symposium several years ago as a way for people to connect with professional archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians to learn about their research, their methods, and their thoughts about the individuals who were found at Oakwood. The reports regarding the exhumations were published in May of this year. And so this is the very first opportunity that we have had to discuss them with you, to take your questions, and to have professionals in the field walk us through these rather technical reports. We all had to wait a very long time for the reports to be completed, but also to be reviewed and approved by state regulatory offices, and then to bring on an archaeology firm to guide us through the next steps of our process. So we are very excited to finally be here. And we are very grateful for this opportunity to respond to your concerns and your need to know. Additionally, we thought it was very important that we hear from you about how you would like to see these individuals honored through memorials, exhibits, or ceremonies, and perhaps future programming. You will have the opportunity to share your thoughts, and we will share with you our process and our plans for reinterments and on-site memorials. But we would also like to share with you some very exciting news about how we plan to learn more about these individuals through cutting-edge DNA analysis. I'd like to thank Mason Miller with Amatera Environmental and Dr. Maria Franklin from the University of Texas, who provided the very best archaeological partners we could wish for. Other members of our symposium planning team included Jennifer Chenoweth, Kim McKnight, Carrie Adams, and Caitlin Hill, all managers with the Parks Department. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Carver Museum and Cultural Center, who received funding from City Council to support this conference, and we would also like to thank City Council for providing that funding. And finally, I'd like to thank our behind the scenes personnel, James Byers, Lucy Miller-Downing, and Erlinda Zamora, who were working backstage to bring the speakers to your screens today. To launch our symposium, let's hear from Assistant City Manager, Christopher Shorter. Mr. Shorter was appointed Assistant City Manager in February 2019 and oversees the health and environment and culture and lifelong learning outcomes for our city's strategic plan, which encompasses several city departments, including the Parks and Recreation Department. Prior to his appointment as Assistant City Manager, Chris served in a number of leadership roles for the District of Columbia over the past 10 years. It is my great honor to welcome ACM Christopher Shorter.
Again, thank you, Laura, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I truly appreciate the opportunity to welcome you to this unprecedented symposium. We've invited residents to come to the table with scientists and city staff to explore what took place at Oakwood Cemetery Chapel in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. We will learn how the City of Austin's Parks and Recreation Department responded to meet the requirements of the Texas Historical Commission and the May 2020 report describing this archaeological journey. In addition, you will learn how PARD continues to respectfully reinter and remember the 39 individuals buried and forgotten under the chapel's foundation. Through the latest evidence and advances in bioarchaeology and genetic anthropology, we can learn so much more than we ever could before. We will hear from some of the top scientists in their fields from across the US to discover what we can learn from DNA analysis and bioarchaeology. Most importantly, we are here to remember the individuals found at Oakwood Cemetery Chapel and learn from each other about how a community can respond and come together to commemorate these individuals and take one step forward to heal the wounds of racism. We are also here to listen to your perspective on what cities like ours can do to better respond to these alarming discoveries when they occur. It is my honor to ask you to remember the 39 individuals who were discovered at Oakwood Cemetery Chapel with a moment of silence. I want to thank you for sharing your time with us and welcome you again to All Together Here, a symposium for discovery and remembrance. Again, Laura, thank you so much for the introduction, and I am looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate your being here.